Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our regular council meeting of Monday, January the 8th. Belated Happy New Year to everyone and well wishes all around. I'd like to acknowledge that we are having this meeting tonight on the unceded territories of the Sauk Nation. And I also want to give my thanks to members of council, particularly our Deputy Mayor of December, Councillor Beddoes, for stepping up and chairing various meetings while I was home dealing with a really bad case of the influenza. But despite my coughing, I'm in good, healthy form as I start coughing and ready to start the new year. So many thanks to all of our staff and counselors for really stepping up there. Okay, so we're going to get right into it. And first off will be approval of tonight's agenda to be adopted as circulated. That's moved by Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by Councillor Bateman. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Meeting minutes are here for adoption. With my glasses, we have June the 12th, December 11th special, committee of the whole also for December 11th. Move adoption by Councillor St. Pierre, seconded by Councillor Bateman. Any questions or corrections? Seeing none, thank you. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Okay, leading right into our item 5, which is delegations. We have the Sauk Region Communities Health Network here with us tonight. I understand that this matter did come forward last year. However, members of Search-In were unavailable to attend due to other commitments. So thank you for being here tonight. They have provided some information. My understanding, though, is that they'll give a bit of an intro, but the intention is to answer any questions that councillors have. So if you could please come forward and just turn on the microphone so everyone here can hear you, as well as the good folks viewing the YouTube from home, that would be awesome.
Good evening. My name is Annemiek Holthuis. I'm the president of the Sauk Region Communities Health Network, and I have with me Mary Dunn, who is the vice president, and Rick Robinson, who's on the agenda, is unable to be here this evening for health reasons. As Mayor Tate said, we weren't unable to attend the last meeting due to prior commitments, but we are happy to answer your questions this evening. We have provided 2 pieces of information. One is the request itself. We're requesting $96,000 in the district's reserve fund to position the Sauk Region Communities Health Network to make its application for the Sauk Gathering Place so that we can be as shovel ready as possible for the next community housing funding call from BC Housing. We anticipate that will come in early 2024. We also provided some information which gives you a sense of the funding that we received from the District of Sauk previously and how that funding was spent in terms of getting the project ready to date. So we had an initial draw of 25,000. Then there was a further one of 50 and another of 100,000. And you'll see the various items that were used in terms of architectural fees, civil engineering work, project development. We're working with Wiser Projects on this development. And then as well, the information provides some of numbers around the additional grants that we have obtained. And we have received a potential grants of $277,000 in addition to the money that was provided. There are some caveats or conditions on some of this funding requiring matching funds, and we can get into that in your questions if you wish. And then we provided some indication of what we are hoping that the $96,000 will fund. So we have some additional design work to do to get the building to a net zero design. Our discussions with BC Housing indicated that we need to get a quantity survey done to assess what portion of the space will be living space, which is potentially funded by BC Housing, and what portion will be community space, which would be the activity center in the Sauk Gathering Place. And that quantity survey will give a sense of how the services are divided between those 2 sections. We are, as you've probably hopefully been aware, we're fundraising for the Sauk Gathering Place and particularly for the community space, the activity center. And so some of this fundraising has been done, but we're in discussions with the United Way to do some more feasibility study around additional work in the campaigning and fundraising. And then we have some just work to do around the funding application itself. So that's the sense of what the additional draw that we're requesting would cover. And we are happy to answer your questions.
Okay, thank you very much for being here tonight to answer this. I'll look to members of council for any questions that you may have. And then once we've exhausted that, we'll look to put the motion forward. So questions from council. Go ahead, Councillor Beddoes.
Yeah, thank you very much for attending tonight and clearing up a few things. I'm a little confused. Can you tell me again, and like we've spent a considerable amount of money already to get it shovel ready, which I thought it was shovel ready last time and the time before. And now we're doing it again. It's been some extra things put on to us, you know, by the province as to why we are not shovel ready now, because I thought we were, and maybe it's just my misunderstanding.
Yeah, we actually have never been shovel ready. So the first draw we did was to get us into the position to be able to apply for the initial BC housing application we did. And so we had to get all the architect plans in place as well as do all that work for that application. And then the second draw was the last 100,000 we got was to look at doing this matching grant with the Green Municipal Fund. So that grant is a matching grant. So they will give us up to 136,000 as long as we have matching dollars for that. We have 130 in matching dollars, 100 from the district and 30 from another housing project that didn't go through, and they donated the money towards us. So that is doing a lot of the engineer work that needs to be done in order to look at what we need to be net zero. It also has advanced the architect plans as part of that. So what we're told in terms of working with our consultants is that we're probably about 2 months out from being shovel ready. There is still some additional architect work that needs to be done, some more detailed work in terms of, you know, all the servicing and all of that sort of stuff. And there's a bit more work to be done by civil engineers, that sort of stuff. Some of the money also paid for the development permit that we had to put in. We had some things we had to do from there. We are being required to do the traffic survey, so we'll have to have funds in order to be able to do those. So we have to be able to cover those things as well. The Green Municipal Fund doesn't pay out until we've used all the money. It's one of those ones that you have to spend the money first, and then you do the application to get the money back. So that's creating a little bit of an issue for us as well.
Yeah, I'm just, you know, we put a lot of money into this. We've been doing it for 5 years now, and I don't know, it doesn't seem like we're any closer. And it's a little frustrating for me to sit on this side and take this money, and here we are. The other thing is, my understanding is BC Housing really has no problem with this, the seniors housing part of it. It just all stems from this seniors drop-in center. Have we ever considered maybe taking the seniors drop-in center out of it and work it into something else in the district and let us get on with some housing? Because I understand that would be what is the most pressing need here? Is it the drop-in center, or is it housing for seniors?
I think it's both, because we know we have housing out there right now that doesn't have the supports, and we need the support systems in place. We know beyond question that isolation, how detrimental isolation is for seniors. And that has proved over and over again. Knox Housing, for example, where we are right now, has the housing, has the affordable housing. They don't have the supports in place that go with it. And every time I go there, I meet people in the parking lot, especially during COVID, that are lonely, that want a place to be able to get together with other people, especially around their own age, and do stuff. So having the seniors drop-in center is vital for our community. It's going to provide needed community space. It's going to provide that programming and that support. for seniors, to keep them healthy, keep them in our community for much longer. We know that when it was running before, they would check on each other. Now nobody's doing that. We've got seniors isolated in their own homes that nobody knows what's happening with them. When the drop-in center was up and running, if they didn't show up for a week, somebody would be at their door saying, "Are you okay? What's going on? We haven't seen you around." Right? So those pieces are vital. To us, this whole project fits together well. We have the housing, we have the supports that go with it. We have that ability for people to still contribute in what's happening in here, to have meaningful contributions in their lives. It's walkable to all the services. So yes, you're right. BC Housing will pay for housing, period. That's all they'll pay for. So whether we do the housing as a standalone and we do the community center somewhere else, we still have the same issue in that we have to find the funds to build the community space.
And what is your funding now? How much in the way of funding have you assembled? Because, and how much do you need? I'm not even sure of that. I mean,
So the quantity survey will say for sure. The last numbers we were given, and as you can imagine, in the last
Yes.
3 years, numbers have increased dramatically.
Ah.
The last number we were given was $400 a square foot for the build. So that's where we did our campaign at $2 million. We are looking at, we've known that we can never raise that full $2 million just from SOOC. We have to be able to get to some of the bigger dollars, which is where we're now having this conversation with United Way. And with some other organizations that can potentially contribute more, but United Way that can get at a lot of those corporate dollars to bring that in. There's so much support in the community. Everybody we talk to says this is a great idea. All the politicians, everybody we talk to says what a great idea it is, but we need to complete getting that income for the community portion of this space.
And what do you have so far? Are you able to say that at this point in time?
Right now, I have 152,000. I have 8,000 more coming in this month. Plus I have another probably 1,000. So we're just over 160,000 right now. We do have a potential commitment by another organization to build out some of that space, which will be a significant contribution. I'm still in discussions with all the parties that might be part of that. So I can't say any more about that or whether or not it'll go through or not, but we are doing those negotiations as well. To look at meeting other needs in the community in terms of seniors' needs in the community as well.
Okay. I'll let other people have a talk now.
Councillor St. Pierre? With the microphone on, please.
There we go. First thing I'd like to do is just thank you for all the work. I'm remembering how much work Councillor, there he is, Bateman, along with Viral did for the library portion of Lot A, and how long it took for that to come out of the ground and all the complications and so on and so forth. And I know you're experiencing that tenfold. So appreciate your patience and your being willing to push through on this. I do see progress because we've moved a long way from where we were with a charrette, which we attended a few years ago. And now we've got a library and we've got some really solid plans in terms of what's happening here. The thing that impresses me the most right now, honestly, is you've identified that the community space is actually the linchpin challenge, and you're going after significant funding, ideally through United Way. What's your optimism on that in terms of actually being able to go to BC Housing and say, we got that covered, let's go?
We're not the only
one. That's a really interesting question. I'm fairly optimistic it'll come through. One of the things we hear as well is there are a lot of people out there that want to contribute but haven't yet because they're waiting until they know things are moving forward. So for example, I had a discussion with a couple the other day that have told me that they are looking at giving us $10,000, but they're waiting till they know that things are moving forward. So once we're able to say, yes, funding's in place, we're rolling forward, I think there'll be a lot more money come through. 2 people that I am aware of have put us in their wills. So that may not help us with the construction, but it'll definitely help us with the ongoing operations as we get this unfolded. With the United Way, we have had, the board has had serious discussions with them. They're pretty optimistic that going to the bigger corporations, that they can do that. They have those connections that we don't have. So that's why we're looking at now taking that next step. The feasibility study will give us this information for the BC housing proposal as well, to say this is how we're going to do it. This is where the money is going to be coming from. And there's some other ideas that we have floating around out there where we can maybe help mitigate some of those costs. But with United Way getting on board,
Feeling pretty optimistic.
I feel that, I mean.
No, that's what it's a really open-ended question. I
Yeah.
appreciate you being able to answer it as well as you have. The other thing that I was wanting to comment on was just the net zero portion. And I think I really appreciate that you're doing this. I know that in other projects that hasn't been considered as carefully, especially where the affordable housing is critical.
Mhm.
And I think that the operational costs being kept down because of the net zero really makes a huge difference into the future. So really appreciate your moving forward and championing net zero in this.
Other questions from, excuse me, other questions from members of council before I read the motion in? Go ahead, Councillor Bateman.
Yeah, thank you and Happy New Year. I'm curious about this community housing fund because BC Housing traditionally has taken at least 18 months between windows, but this new climate of housing and the crisis is speeding that up. So you have heard within the next few months.
Yeah, when the last call came out, and they were announcing, the communities that were on the naughty list that needed to get housing, they were kind of rolling down that list. They did indicate that the next call would probably be in about 6 months. We have recently had discussions with Kevin from Macola, and he has heard that it'll be out in weeks.
Okay.
So you never know until they announce it. But we are getting indications that it'll definitely be much sooner than what's previously been the case.
And I know you opted not to apply in the November funding window because you'd heard that Souk wasn't on the list. Are you confident Souk will be on the list this time?
So
The list, I don't know. if
yeah,
there's such a thing.
it was a bit of a mix up in all of that. In the BC Housing webinar they indicated there were 10 communities. They named those communities that would get top priority. Didn't mean in no other community would get seen, but those were going to get priority. So if you weren't on the list, your chances were lower. We've since heard that was not supposed to be the case. And we heard that from Ravi Parmar. He said he talked to them. There really was not to be this case of a list. So it seems that there was some miscommunication about it. The indication was the next 10 would be on the next list. Who knows where we are on that list, but we are on the list somewhere, but we're also being told that really they're not doing that. So I don't know. It's all, yeah.
So perhaps it was a good thing since you will be using some of this money to fine tune the application further. Yes.
Yeah, the other reason we want to move it forward to get it even closer to shovel ready is because we also hear that sometimes money is given outside of those calls, that sometimes there's calls that monies are awarded that for whatever reason that community can't do it, and it's handed out to projects that are shovel ready.
Hmm.
And we did speak to somebody, another group that got that last year. They just got money that we didn't even know was on the table because they were shovel ready.
Right.
And that money didn't have as much ties to it as what it is. So we also want to be prepared to have that opportunity if it comes up.
Councillor Lajeunesse.
Yeah, so you've been working with United Way and that's good. I know Danella, is that who you've been working with? Yeah, I used to work with her at Camosun. But have you also talked to Victoria Foundation? Because I talked to them last year and they have specific things that they fund, but they also have wealthy benefactors that are sort of banging on their door looking for good causes that they don't necessarily fund, and so there's potential there as well.
Yeah, we definitely have. Thank you. We Danella is part of the team at United Way, but there's a whole team of them. So they have a new executive director, Liz.
It's Erica Stinson.
Erica Stinson. So we're working more closely with her, but she pulled in, I think there were 6 of them at the last meeting we had. She just pulled in the whole team. So Danella being one of those who really knows Souk really well, and so is able to advocate on that, on that cause. We have put the project forward to the Victoria Foundation as well, and, you know, are hoping that maybe they can send one of these people our way. We're told over and over that there are these people in Souk, but they tend to give through places like United Way, Victoria Foundation, those sorts of places, rather than just direct. So it's a matter of getting to them, right? And so this can give us that opportunity, plus give us the opportunity to get to the bigger corporations that are more likely to give much bigger dollars. But if you know of anyone, I'm happy to have coffee with them.
Counselor Pearson?
Yes, thank you. Thank you both for all the work that you're doing all the time, and, you know, bake sales and everything with at every booth and everything, everywhere I go, I know there's somebody asking for money. So thank you for all the work. My question is, so shovel ready, what's next then to make sure, you know, like, you know, with this last grant, is you've got a realistic timeline to have it ready within 2 months, and that's.
So that was the question that I did put forward to Wiser, and they suggested 2 months would probably be about the time. So it is, like I said, getting much more detailed architectural plans. So we have the floor plans, we have detailed plans, but they have to be even more detailed. If you've ever built a house, it's like, you know, rolling back the layers. So we need to get to those bottom layers. And then there is some work by civil engineering, by those types of places that we need to do as well, especially as part of the Green Municipal Fund, as part of that net zero stuff. We are also going after some of these other, like, one of the reasons we did the net zero is we want to cheapen the operating dollars so that we're not going to have to be fundraising to pay for the costs of running this building as we go. It'll also help decrease the cost for tenants in having this, but it also opens up doors to apply for other funding to help cover some of those capital costs as well. So we have to layer funding on to be able to cover all the capital costs. BC Housing doesn't cover 100% of it in a grant. They'll give you a loan, and the loan is market rent. CMHC gives us cheaper loans. So we'll be layering on BC Housing with CMHC, with GMF, and anything else we can get to help decrease the amount of mortgage we potentially would have to carry to see this building come to fruition.
Thank you.
Anything, other questions from members of council? Counselor Beddoes?
Yeah, I still struggle with this. I mean, I love what you're doing. I love the reasoning behind it. It makes sense that seniors need all that care around them. And I'm a senior myself. I understand that. I guess I just shovel ready, and we get United Way on board. But BC Housing, if they're going to be entertaining something in the next weeks or early 2 months, and we don't have any funding in place for the $2 million, they made it quite clear, I thought, that they would not proceed with it unless you had some guarantee that that money was there. So, I mean, I love you being anticipating, you know, a joyous occasion here, but I just see, knowing how BC Housing works, and their big bugaboo all along is that $2 million. So how do you reconcile that? If we have an intake in, you said weeks and not months, maybe it is months, doesn't matter. Will you have that some sort of guarantee in place that they would say, yeah, we'll go for this?
So that's why we need to get moving on the quantity survey and the fundraising feasibility study. We have to start those right now so that we can get them completed before the next housing call application comes. The quantity survey is a requirement of the BC Housing application. And it will tell us exactly how much we need to raise for it. And the fundraising feasibility study will be able to identify how that money is going to come forward, right? As well as I said, I'm in negotiations right now with another foundation and some other organizations to look at a collaboration that would build out part of that. And they know that I need to have some decisions soon so that it can be part of this application moving forward.
Okay, the clock is ticking.
I know.
Very quickly. Okay, understood.
Trust me.
Okay, so the motion, I'll read it out here, would be that council approve an additional draw of the remaining $89,000 plus interest to date from the Seniors Youth Center Reserve Fund established by bylaw number 717 as requested by the Sioux Region Communities Health Network. It's moved by Councillor St. Pierre, seconded by Councillor Lajeunesse. So to speak to it, go ahead, Councillor St. Pierre. And you can return to your seats if you like. Thank you.
I think it's mostly been said, but the previous monies for specifically this purpose have already been spent moving this project along. Right now, we have options, for example, as explained, that if we are shovel ready, even if this doesn't actually get done in time, we could potentially get the money anyway to move forward. And regardless, having all the plans in place and having the shovel ready makes us ready for this intake, future intake, so on and so forth. This is the project we need. This is what the funds were meant to accomplish. And we don't really have anything else to put them on, to be perfectly honest. This is our best bet for making this happen. So I don't see any reason not to actually approve this. I love what the money's going towards, the net zero. The feasibility study and the funding study are just necessary in order to actually take on the next intake and be ready. So let's provide the resources for them to get ready.
Councillor Lajeunesse.
Yeah, I think with all the time and effort and resources that have gone into this at this point, it would be kind of counterproductive to slam the brakes on at this point. So let's just move it along, keep it going.
I hear you, Councillor. However, I just want to procedurally check in with council in that the public comment, question and comment period follows the delegation. So do you want to postpone this motion to immediately after the public question and comment so that members of the public can speak to this if they so wish? That may be a reason why some are here tonight. Council's comfortable with that, right? Sorry, yeah, it's like what we'll do is I'll have councillors speak to it, but I'm not going to call the vote until after. Okay, so Councillor Beddoes?
Yeah, I do have a few reservations, but I agree. We're into it this far now, and you and your organization and a number of people have done a tremendous amount of work. And I would hate to see it fail on an 89,000. It sounds like a terrible lot of money, but considering what's at stake, it's necessary. So I will support the motion unless I hear from the public a little bit more, or they come up with something else. But yeah, I'm okay with it. Thanks.
And in that regard, I'll allow councillors to speak again, should there be something from the public that would make you want to comment back. Okay, Councillor Bateman.
Okay, yeah, I'll be supporting this pending public comment, of course. While also stating here, this is quite a story. It was 10 years ago that or 9 years ago, we had the referendum, which clearly stated we wanted this seniors youth center, as it was known in the referendum question. We spent 5 years building up a reserve fund of 200 and I think it was 65 it maxed out at. And now you have been very strategically spending it. So onwards and upwards. And, I think, and seeing the kind of community work led by Roseanne Day and the rest of your fundraisers, it's very inspiring to see. And it's funny how these things build momentum and suddenly you've got the hockey stick. And hopefully that will be how this story. No, we're not getting that might be an idea.
Councillor Pearson. Well, I just thought I would see if you had any comments to make.
I have always left.
Okay.
But no.
Okay, so I'll just add my support to this. It's been longer than 10 years because there was a time where the seniors operated out of the building that now has the dental clinic and the like. I can't remember the name of that original building. And then at one point they were in our fire lounge. They've been looking for space for a considerable length of time. And then there was petitions, and that's what led to the formation of the reserve fund. So it's been a long time coming. I think when Searchin picked this up, it was to build the activity center However, then looking at the capital costs of raising a building out of the ground, and then also citing the location, which led to the acquisition of Lot A, the charrette, the community planning, it landed where having this in proximity of the core made the most sense. And then, of course, all the various work. And then in terms of best use for the land, while the library took over a decade to come, we know that this is highly serviced land in the town center, so we need to add some height. Also through a proven housing needs survey dating back to Air Manor, or even when the Hope Center formed initially, there was always a proven need for housing, affordable housing for frail seniors, particularly women. In Sooke. We've learned since then that we have many that maybe are sitting on too large a property, too big a house, that are unable to move because of the absence of another type of condominium building and the like. Some have moved into the condominiums that have formed, which then allows their home to be freed up for a family or someone else who likes a larger parcel of land. I think it's sad when I hear from seniors that are seeing their house fall apart around them and their lands, maybe gardens that they used to prize and take care of, unable to maintain all of that. And which is why having something smaller with the services in place make the most sense. We learned a lot through COVID with the isolation, but that continues to this day. And in fact, I would say it's worse off because some of the supports that were available through COVID are no longer available today. And yet that still continues to be the norm for many. So in terms of citing this on this property, it's been a piece one after another of getting there to the finish line. But there is a housing crisis in Canada. We're not the only one. It's all over the place. So that's where the dollars are stretched. There's not enough. However, if it's not this particular intake, there was an announcement federally that there will be housing released to local. I don't know how it's coming to BC though. They've made the announcement of housing dollars. Is that going to a local government? Is that flowing through the province? Is it going to UBCM? That is an unanswered question. So maybe in an ideal world, there will be another opportunity, not just BC housing, but something else potentially as well. That would be awesome. In this case, it is separating the two, but both have a proven need behind them. And I think we've learned through the Getting It Built study that was done either before or following the referendum question is that one big massive building doesn't fit all. In fact, we need to look at different buildings around Sooke to meet the growing needs of everybody. What's interesting is I was in Poirier Elementary School last year and I was invited there by the grade 4 classes doing town hall. The students were aware that this building was coming into place, so they had some ideas on what they feel would be fun and useful activities for children to engage with seniors. And so they've developed some drawings, a wonderful report on the type of activities they would like to see. They mentioned old school board games, games like chess, checkers, and cribbage. When I asked if they played these games with their parents, they said not anymore because their parents are not meeting their expectations when it comes to some of these games. So if they tap into some of the elders, perhaps they will have a more formidable opponent. And having lost to an 8-year-old, I completely understand what that's like in the game of chess. So there is, the Sooke News Mirror. I'd like to thank them for also profiling the need of the gathering place and showcasing that in their weekly editions every week on the various fundraising that's happened, in addition to all the work that's happening on the ground by the volunteers. So I think everything we can do to add support. This reserve fund was established particularly for this purpose. And moving closer to the finish, whether it's through BC Housing or another application or unused whatever, we just need to be ready for it when the time comes. So thank you for your work and for being here. And I'll leave it at that, and then we'll pick up the vote after we hear from the members of the public. So thank you very much to both of you, and best to Rick Robinson, who's likely viewing from home right now. Okay, so on that note, I'm going to move right into 6.1, which is the report of the Chief Administrative Officer, and hand it over to Rachel Gray.
Thank you, and Happy New Year to everyone. Hope everyone had a good Christmas and New Year's with your families and friends. Brief report of the Chief Administrative Officer for today's meeting. Just a few items to highlight would be to congratulate everyone involved in the Sooke Solstice Lantern Walk, where more than 200 residents walked around on December 21st. Thank you again to Otter Point Fire Rescue for hosting the polar bear swim at Whiffenspit Park on January 1st. And as I think the community has seen over the last few years, council has been very passionate about engaging with the community and being more transparent and open and honest and available to the community. So on that vein, Coffee with Mayor and Council is back for 2024. The first session will be January 29th from 10 to 11:30. And residents from the community are invited to come and join mayor and council for coffee and to engage and talk about the needs of your community here. One other thing added to that as well is on February 7th is Coffee with a Cop. Will be occurring at Cafe Vosino, and encouraging everyone to attend there. Sergeant Wilcox will, I assume, be hosting that, and we haven't had one yet, so I'm not quite sure what to expect from that, but I'm sure he will report back on his next quarterly update to council on how the event played out. From the human resource perspective, we are actively recruiting for the engineering technologist, general support clerk auxiliary pool. We are shortlisting some applicants for some interviews. Building officials, I will be connecting with our recently hired chief building official who was hired as an auxiliary employee here later this week to confirm. He was vetting a couple of potential part-time building inspectors. So I'll be connecting with him later this week, and we'll provide an update to the public and developing community as soon as I have some new information to share. But I believe Mr. James has been a welcome addition to the team and provided some much needed support to that department over the last few weeks here. Currently under review and will be posted shortly would be the Director of Corporate Services, Director of Planning and Development, and anticipating doing another round of interviews for the Manager of HR position later this week. As always, sign up for our newsletters and other information, council meetings, websites, wealth of information. Let's Talk Souk. There's lots of information available, so encourage everyone from the community to access those resources and to reach out to staff if you're unable to find something you're looking for. A couple quick updates on projects. Charters Road, as everyone has seen, has been down to one lane for 7 times. So throughout the construction of that project, it will maintain one lane alternating traffic flow throughout the project, lasting about a year. And staff and the project the construction company are doing their best to, work with school times, rush hour, other things they can to reduce the impact to the driving community as much as possible as these projects are progressing. Church Throop Roundabout has a hydro pole has been installed. There is temporary markings and flashing lights for 2 of the crosswalks, and the aim is for substantial completion by the spring. Included as well is a is an image of the revamp of the mural that is currently being undertaken. More information will come to that in the next few months here as the project progresses, and I'm sure there'll be a big unveiling once it's all finalized and ready to be seen by the public. I'm really excited to see this beautiful piece of work progress and be remounted or mounted anew to the building and become a great community asset. One last piece to include is for the public and anyone who cares is we'll be starting up pretty quickly here will be 2024 budget meetings. Where May 15th is our drop dead deadline to get our budget bylaw as well as our property tax rate bylaw completed. So staff have been using the information from the summer budget survey that completed, as well as internal conversations and external conversations on priorities, and we'll be booking some meetings and providing budget options to council for consideration in the next few weeks here, I guess, starting pretty quickly here with the goal to try and get the budget completed in March there. We'll see how we get, but that is what we're aiming for, is to start presenting this information to council later this month. And that's all I have for now. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Gray. Questions from Counselor St. Pierre?
Just confirmation sort of question. Want to just hope you had a great holiday and that you're feeling great at this point, and to thank the chief for, I believe, stepping in. So.
Oh, yeah, I didn't say that. Thank you, Chief Rick.
I just wanted to say thanks to the chief and hope you're feeling awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Any other questions from members, council members? Counselor Pearson, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. And I know it's your first day back, so Happy New Year. Recent published article in the one of the local papers about 350 building permit backlog. Are we making head? And I know you touched on it, but it 350 sounds like an awful. I don't know how many we would normally have. It just seemed like an astronomical number when I read that the other day.
Yeah, and I think that through your worship, that came out right maybe before I went on vacation. So that is
Sort of
on
about
my
the same
list to kind of flesh out a little bit this week, because I don't believe that number's accurate. Seems higher than I've seen. So I need to flesh that out, and I can ground tooth that a little bit, and we can provide some updated communication on what the current stats are. I just haven't talked to Mr. James yet, so I don't know. And the support staff was not in the office today. So once I talk to them tomorrow, I'll have a better idea of where we're actually at, and I can provide an update to council as well as the community on how many outstanding we have. But I don't believe it's that high, because I know he has pumped out a lot of permits over the last little bit here.
Okay, yeah, and I appreciate your first day back. So I just think it's worthy of mentioning and keeping our eye on that, right? So, because that seems astronomical. Thank you.
Okay, see nothing else. I just wanted to add a bit for the coffee date. I spoke a bit with staff about this and thought, okay, well, we tried it and it worked and didn't work. So what didn't work from the times we've done it before is that sometimes we're missing residents in the room that are coming in and waiting because we're having a conversation elsewhere. So I like the casual feel of it, but I felt it needed a bit more structure. Also, once a month, we sent out an update. I work with our staff. We sent out a mayoral update that the Sooke News Mirror graciously prints for me, but not everybody gets it. And I've been not pushing a lot of stuff out on social media, although it does go through our e-news updates frequently. So then how do we try to continue to engage with the public? So what we thought was, we'll do the same sort of piece, but instead I'll actually give a bit of a presentation with some structure. Here's all the things that are happening on the ground in Sooke. Here's also what's happening coming your way from the Capital Regional District, as well as some of the other boards that I sit on that impact what's happening with transit, what's happening in the world of treaty, all of those pieces. Answer a bit of a Q&A to the best that I can on the spot. And then with some staff, we can follow up if there's an answer that I don't have. We're also really diligently focusing on a lot of advocacy work. So what can we share out about that? How do we get public support on some of the advocacy items that we're working on? And the road work and the like. And then what I think would be ideal is there'll be some storyboards. So people who don't want to talk to me will have other opportunities to either look at information. Sometimes it's just information seeking. Where can I get a blue box? Those sorts of things. And then ideally, what I thought would be kind of fun is to shift the time in the future, because this is only meeting a certain group of individuals. Let's try something from like 3 to 7. So we can catch the right after school groups, the commuting but not too tired group as well, or some that are working obviously during the day, and then look at doing that. But we needed to start somewhere, and so I've just kind of gone back to, okay, let's try this and let's try a different form, and then let's find a different way to get it out. And then as weather improves, maybe we can do something outside in the park. And then it's not as like people have to fight for parking and come into chambers, and it can be more. And we did do that, like at some of the pop-ups here and there at different parks. It's just timing and what does that look like? So I thought, okay, let's bring it back. Let's start it again. And then let's see what works from people, because we're catching those that are available. We're not catching the people that can't be available in that time period, and try something different and switch it up this year. So it could be kind of fun. But this way we can just provide more movement and allow and meet with others who otherwise we have not met with before. So please put that in your calendar and join me there so that I have some help answering some of the tough questions. It's also appreciated because many of you sit at other tables as well, and we can just share out what's happening and continue and then build something forward. And then ideally find a timing to have like a good town hall, which we've done before, maybe sometime before budget, where we can, you know, either look at the community hall or a school or a church or a different venue where our departments can be present to answer operational pieces and to share out, have our CMP present, have CPark present, because they're also doing their facilities planning, representatives from the school, from the CRD and so forth available to cover off everybody. And so that might tie into local government week or some other week. So it's just something we've talked a lot about. We just need to actually schedule and do. So that's what I'm sort of hoping will come out of this. So thank you very much, Rachel, from Ms. Gray for including this in your report. And we'll see how that goes. Okay. So at this point, we just require a motion to receive the report of the Chief Administrative Officer for information. It's moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Councillor Bettles. All in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. So that leads us to number 7, the public question and comment period. So I'd like to invite anyone here to make any comment on tonight's agenda. It is specific to the agenda time. We allocate 2 minutes per speaker. We just require your name. We don't need your address. If you can let us know which local government you live in, that would be cool. And let us know which item you're talking about so we can focus on that report. And then we'll take any questions and we'll answer them as those reports come forward. And then please just turn on the microphone.
Herb Haldane, Souk. I got a couple things I want to talk about, but the building inspector thing, the update's great. I appreciate that. To give you an idea whether or not it's 350, I have a permit that it still hasn't come to fruition yet, and it's from June. So I'm over 6 months. I need to get going on it, but you know, that's neither here nor there. So I'm hoping maybe we can hire these other building inspectors and try and get some of that backlog taken care of. The other thing would be the senior center building here, whatever, and just again, I think it's a great project. I think it's a good idea and stuff. But if you were giving that kind of money away to any other organization for any other reason, there would be a spreadsheet with clarity with where some of the funds have been spent, where some of the funds are probably going to go. There isn't any of that. I mean, there should be some more transparency to this. Not that I think there's anything aloof or anything, but if this money's been spent and it's been spent on reasonable stuff, there should be a sheet or something the public can look at, because that's all public funds. And there's none of that. So to give more money, another $90,000, doesn't make any sense to me until we can see where the money's been spent up to this point. The other thing I noticed is that it's far more than $400,000 to build. To build net zero, you're looking at about $650 a square foot. So if we're going to build a building that we want to try and afford and trying to get money donated and given to us, we wouldn't be building a net zero building. As much as it's great to build one, if you're going to do net zero, then you're going to have to get with a private developer who's going to want to have some of the money back, and he's going to help you through the process. And you're going to build a really big, fancy building, but you're going to charge bigger, fancier money for it. If you're going to build something like they just did down by the old on Drennan there, then that's not going to be net zero, but that's going to be reasonable funding, reasonable funds. But the other thing they did down there was they hooked up with a very experienced developer and a very experienced architect. So until you have those things in line, really, you're just floating in the wind. You don't have a consultant that's helping you through this process, which you should have somebody who knows exactly what they're doing and why they're doing it. So I would just say you might want to get those ducks in order first.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Other comments from members of the public tonight? Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to the motion that's on the floor that we parked there. So that's already been moved and seconded. Is there anything further that council would like to comment on? Okay, go ahead, Councillor Bateman, then St. Pierre.
Well, in answer to Mr. Haldane's points, there is in our agenda today on page 17 a line item breakdown of where the reserve funds have been spent to date. Now it's a line item, it's not super detailed, but these have all gone through public process to this point, so there's quite a bit of background. And I think Wiser Consultants are a very experienced consultancy that is guiding this project forward. Yeah, that's my comment.
Thank you, Councillor St. Pierre.
I was also going to comment briefly on the comments from the public in terms of net zero. Our understanding from the people from the CRD is that most of that has to do with putting in water heating that's electric and various heating systems that are electric as opposed to going for gas and so on and so forth. So in terms of the change to the building costs, they're not actually the same thing as moving up the step code. Net zero is actually a completely different thing, but that's often misunderstood. And hopefully we can resolve that with better communication.
Okay, I think the project team has that in hand. So I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Of course, you're always welcome to stay with us till the end of the meeting because we do like to have members of the public here with us. So, but I won't be upset if you leave. Okay, we'll move on to item 8, which is our consent agenda. And that would be that item number 8.1 be adopted by general consent. Councillor St. Pierre is moving that. Second by Councillor Lajeunesse. Is there any correspondence that anyone wishes to pull? Councillor Beddoes?
Sorry, Your Worship, not to pull, but there is a correspondence missing here. And I'm a little, because I asked for it specifically to make sure that it did make this list, and that is the one from the Sooke Lions project. Although I can't work on it, I thought it was ideal that the council see that letter and it come before in case one of them wants to have a discussion about it, but it's not on this list. I don't know.
It's not on the list. So, okay, we'll look to where that went and then we can find it and bring it to the next agenda.
Okay,
Okay,
I'm okay with that.
all right. Councillor Bateman.
Yeah, that was in the December 12th correspondence package that we as council received electronically. I think Mayor Tate, you were going to pull the guiding lights across BC.
Oh, yes.
Item D, number 14.
Yes, thank you. As a Girl Guide, I should have been prepared and noted that. However, thank you for lending a hand and helping me out there. So if item number 14 could come to the next regular meeting, that would be great. Or no, yes, 14D. Yes. 14.
Yeah.
Key, yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Like to just, I don't want to pull this, but item 4D is a letter of very sincere thanks to District Engineering and Emergency Services staff and Victoria Contracting for their prompt response to the minor rock slide on Sooke River Road. And it's good to see, you know, we see a lot of the full range of love and less so in correspondence. But this one, as the correspondent stated, they were all highly professional as well as sensitive to the environment and residents' concerns. So congratulations to staff on that.
Excellent, thank you. So those items would be dealt with. They'll move to the next meeting. All remaining will be received and filed accordingly. So that's been moved and seconded. Right, because we did that with the consent, citing these things would move. So I'll call the question. All in favor then? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, moving into our bylaw section. The first one is 9.1, which is animal regulation and impounding amendment bylaw. Over to staff, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. As outlined in the staff report, a small amendment to the animal control bylaw is being brought forward for council consideration. The amendments in support of the work being done by Wildwise and conservation officers to reduce human and wildlife conflict in the community. Sooke's animal control bylaw, the regulation and impounding bylaw, also known as the animal control bylaw, contains a provision that with the exception of bird feeders, food or food waste may not be left outdoors with the explicit intention of feeding wildlife. Staff are recommending the removal of language related to a person's intention when leaving food or food waste outdoors. Changing this language would allow bylaw officers to issue tickets to households who regularly leave their garbage outdoors, attracting and habituating wild animals. Public education and voluntary compliance is always our first approach, and this is being done in combination with Wildwise and conservation officers in the community currently. bylaw officers have been assisting with messaging and education. But when these measures fail, amending the bylaw as suggested would allow for some additional enforcement options. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Temple. Any questions from members of staff council? Go ahead, Councillor Pearson.
Yes, through you to corporate officer. So did we, and I was looking at this earlier, did we consult with BC Wildlife and the conservation officers? Like, what is the provincial standard? Because there's a lot of rural areas and we're sort of half rural, half town. What do they do? Because I know that they have their laws, which are probably over ours.
Yeah, so animals, regulation of animals in general is considered a sphere of concurrent jurisdiction between us and the province. So this generally mirrors the Wildlife Act, which is a provincial piece of legislation. The Wildlife Act does go further to say that you can't intentionally feed animals nor lay food or food waste out in a way that may attract animals. Ours is just missing that piece. So ours is more lax than the current provincial regulations on this. And this is being done at the suggestion of the wildlife officers so that we can support them in their work and have similar rules within SUG as to what they have provincially.
Excellent answer. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Bateman.
Can I move the
Yes,
recommendation
please.
that council give first, second, and third reading to the bylaw cited as bylaw number 899 bracket 392-05, Animal Regulation and Impounding Amendment Bylaw 2024.
Seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. Okay, would you like to speak to it?
Yeah, I wanted to commend Bylaw Services for identifying this very simple fix. I believe a press release was issued by the district early last month indicating that BC Conservation Services had identified that this was a particularly ripe time for bear activity in Sooke. So this, and again, there's education and warnings or voluntary compliance, but then the ticket must be issued. So this is great.
Councillor.
And the next step, of course, is if that doesn't work, then we have to go to a day of pickup garbage bylaw, and that causes great public, which happens in bear smart communities. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Councillor St. Pierre.
Just very briefly, I'm actually surprised that we have language like intent, which implies a certain amount of mind reading and is extremely difficult to enforce. So I'm really pleased that's been taken out because I don't know how you can actually enforce that.
Councillor St. Pierre, or pardon me, Councillor Pearson.
Yeah, just a comment. I mean, I support it, but how far does it go when somebody leaves their apples? The apples fall off the tree. We have public trees, we have public spaces, we have all kinds of things, and then who ultimately is responsible? And I think that word, the purpose of feeding these animals, for the purpose of feeding the animals, was intent. And I don't mind the intent coming out of there, but if a bylaw can be cited to you for not picking up your apples because you're on holidays or something like that, kind of, it feels like a little overreach to me. But I do support the removing of the intent.
I'll just add, though, as Ms. Temple had indicated, that our approach with bylaw is always to inform and educate. But when someone is deliberately leaving meat out to bait a bear for a picture, we have a problem because that is a dead bear. So I don't think our bylaw officers have time to see if everyone's harvested their apples. It's just if this is going to lead to basically the killing of an animal, is how did we get there? And it's because all these other things have happened and there's just the inability for the resident to do anything. So they need to come with enforcement.
Yeah. I don't disagree with anything.
Yeah. Okay. Councillor Beddoes.
Yeah, I think one of the major problems is people putting the garbage out the night before. I just hope that there's some provision that people, because they might leave for work real early, I don't know. But any garbage that I see that a bear's got into, usually it's the one that were put out the night before. Not many I see that were taken out that morning. So I support the motion.
Okay, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. That's unanimous. Thank you. Next up is bylaw for adoption. So this discussion has already happened. So that is that council adopt the bylaw cited as zoning amendment bylaw number 886/600-95 2023, and that's item 9.2 for Croydon Place. Moved by Councillor St. Pierre, seconded by Councillor Lajeunesse. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. 9.3 fees and charges, also here for adoption. That is that council adopt the bylaw cited as fees and charges amendment bylaw number 896/752-09 2023. Moved by Councillor St. Pierre, seconded by Councillor Pearson. All in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Because no, we just did that. When 9.1, 9.2, 9.3. 10, I don't feel we have any new business, just a rise and report that'll follow at the end. So we're moving into the round of correspondence. The first one up is 11.2, or pardon me, 11.1, which is UBCM convention meeting with Minister Kang, and there was a letter back here regarding our infrastructure grant. Council members and I met with our MLA earlier today, and so I committed to delving into all of the paperwork surrounding our grants and then re-forwarding that to the minister as well as to our MLA. So I said that we had started the process post UBCM, gathering some of the information that they felt was not provided. So we'll round all that up and represent that. So I just wanted to see that this was here. However, I think there's some pieces that we need to provide or re-provide. That's not a proper word, but to give them again, because this has been a long, lengthy process, and it will go back to the first time we applied for the ISIP grant. I forget the acronym for ISIP, but it's quite some time ago. So we'll pull all that together. And some of the pieces, just looking at stormwater monitoring, in terms of like one feedback, well, there was nothing current. It's because they have not been monitoring those areas anymore because they know we've applied for a grant to deal with the challenges and the contamination there, but I can provide all the history, and that's what staff is helping me do. So we'll gather that up and more to come. So it's just here for information. So I think for now we can just receive for information, because there'll be we'll be sending a whole package forward in the future. So moved by Councillor St. Pierre, seconded by Councillor Pearson. So I didn't ask if you had any questions, assuming that's fine. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. 11.2 is a request for the Wounded Warrior Run, which they hope to schedule on Sunday, the February 4th. This has been happening for several years now in Souk. It looks like they are asking for sponsorship support again. And also working with our Souk Legion, as well as road closures and the like. So here, let me just find the paragraph here. Oh, here we are. They're looking for a 2,000 donations. So I would look that council support Wounded Warrior Canada in the amount of 2,000 with funds to come from council contingency. Moved by Councillor Bateman, just because we haven't formalized the budget. Seconded by Councillor Lajeunesse. Would you like to speak to it? You don't have to.
No, I don't. But
Stop it.
yeah, it's a very important cause. And it's been going on here for.
Thank you, Councillor Lajeunesse.
Yeah, I agree. It is a worthy cause, and I have no problem with this.
Councillor St. Pierre.
No problems with that, just a procedural question. I think normally we don't actually put through motion responding immediately this way, but have we done this before for this sort of business? Is this procedurally?
We have when we've received requests like this that don't fit the community grants.
And this was actually in the agenda and present in correspondence, so we can't actually move forward. Okay,
It's come, it got pulled, and here we are.
perfect. Okay, just checking.
Councillor Beddoes.
Yeah, I hate to be the naysayer in this, but I do have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with the Wounded Warriors, not at all. I mean, they do a lot of wonderful things, but we're talking about a national organization here where the CAO gets $365,000 a year. CEO, sorry. And I guess what bothers me is that there's the Heart and Stroke Foundation, the MS, all these national things that have these big fundraisers from across the Canada, juvenile diabetes. So is it something that a municipal government should be doing in these very large causes? You know, when it comes to Cops for Cancer, something that it's local, it goes to downtown for the cancer thing. So I have, and the reason I say this too, is, and I don't like to go into some of my past life, but when I work with the nonprofit groups, and I won't mention which one, usually these are what we call put in the round can, because they are a national fundraising organization, and you know how much goes to overhead. I think the Red Cross is 40 to 60% goes to overhead. I don't know what this is, although I did look it up, and the CAO makes $365,000 a year, which is not bad. So I can't see us putting municipal dollars towards this, so I will not be supporting that motion.
Well, that's
Although I
fair.
support Wounded Warriors, just that
Yeah.
much.
Other comments? Okay, I'll call the question then. All in favor? Any opposed? Counselor Beddoes is opposed. That motion carries. Let's see here. 11.3 Victoria City Council resolution regarding red light and speed cameras. So this was pulled by Counselor Bateman.
Yeah. So this was in the previous correspondence package, which I failed to pull back in December, but I was given permission by Corporate Services to have it on tonight's agenda. And it dates back for me to the CRD Environmental Services Committee meeting back in November. And there at that time, the CRD heard from its CRD Traffic Safety Commission a recommendation that the CRD advocate for red light and speed cameras in Greater Victoria. Now, the province has just finished a program where they had 140 cameras set up over a 5-year period, and they've now been studying the results of that. And it clearly indicates that that there is a dramatic reduction in incidents with the threat of cameras. And as such, I pulled this City of Victoria motion. The CRD's made a motion for advocacy. City of Victoria, City of New Westminster, and other local governments are doing this at this point to see an expanded program, particularly focused on high casualty crash sites. The ICBC does a study, which I shared some screenshots from earlier, covering 2018 to 2022 is the latest. And we have situations, City of Victoria is saying 20 or more incidents over that period would warrant a speed camera or red light camera. And we have the intersections of Church, Phillips, Souk River Road, Otter Point almost makes the cut. And the fifth high incident spot is Gillespie, which of course has been resolved with the 4 lanes. So I have a motion, and there it is. So I'll take any questions, or
I would read it
Okay.
out and move it.
so that council support a letter from the mayor to the province requesting that red light and speed cameras be installed at locations in Souk where there were over 20 casualty crashes during the 2018-2022 period, namely the Souk Road intersections at Phillips, Church, Otter Point, and Souk River Road.
Seconded by Counselor St. Pierre. I guess, would you entertain a friendly amendment?
Absolutely.
Maybe it's not needed. I was just thinking that because this is Highway 14, it should be the province installing them at their expense. See, because some local governments are doing that on their local road networks at their expense. but we don't have jurisdiction over Highway 14, so it should be at provincial expense. But I don't know that maybe we should just add that in so it's clear, because we can't touch Highway 14. It's fully under theirs. And I think we get a portion of fines, but they carry, I don't know the breakdown, but they would keep the majority to cover the operations of it. So it should be at their expense. That's all. Okay. On the motion then, Councillor St. Pierre seconded it. So do you have any comments? No? Okay, I'll go to Councillor Lajeunesse, then Beddoes, then Pearson.
Yeah, just a question about casualty crashes. Does that mean a death?
No, it means I believe an ambulance is being called to the scene. And that there's a personal injury. So they have two categories of stat, is that casualty. And then the what's it called? PDO, the private. Yeah, the car was damaged.
Ms. Temple may know that. Yeah.
It's actually included in the letter from the city of Victoria. It defines it as crashes resulting in injury or fatality as opposed to crashes involving just property damage.
Okay.
Councillor Beddoes.
Yeah, I'll be on this bent, but I do have a problem with it. And that's the sort of problem with photo radar and red camera. And I'm torn because I do understand that it is a deterrent for people to run red lights. But I just have a hard time when we're the people that are doing the offense, we don't know who they are. All we're doing is dinging the car. And that may not be the driver of that car. So, I mean, just the fairness of law. If I speed and I get pulled over by an RCMP officer and gives me a ticket, well, that's it. But this stuff comes out sometimes months later. And, you know, I don't keep a personal log of, you know, some of my relatives borrow my car at some time. So, you know, I just think that, you know, I know they don't do a point system when you get a photo radar. Or do they? So I have a problem because it's not the car that's doing the offense, it's the driver, and that's who we should be after. So I have a little bit of a problem with some of these places that, especially with photo radar on the highway, I really do. This not so much, but I do have some misgivings about it because what we're doing is we're going after the car and the registered owner. And by the time that ticket comes out, it may be unfair for that owner to know who was driving his car. I mean, I guess they say, well, you should know exactly who's driving your car, but I mean, I live in the real world and, you know, I don't know whether my wife lent the car to somebody or not, and I'm not going to go about and question it 3 months later. So I have a problem with it, and I just threw that out there for people to comment on or whatever.
Councillor Pearson.
Yeah, I agree with quite a bit of what Councillor Beddoes is putting out there. We're dealing with Highway 14, which is not our jurisdiction. I think I understand the concept, and when I read the letter, I thought, oh, yeah, okay, I kind of get it. Now I don't really know if I get it as much since I've been thinking about it. I think it's more of a UBCM question for all municipalities, because if we're going to start wading into directing, collecting data, finding license plates, that's a whole nother section of local government that we're not undertaking right now. There's, you know, the way that Victoria's presented this, they're going to collect the money, they're going to install the photo radar, the traffic. I don't mind the deterrent, and I actually applaud them for kind of thinking down this line. But when I started thinking about, what does this actually mean for us if we actually implemented this in our own municipality? I would rather see this letter go, or a motion go to UBCM as opposed to the province, where it could have a wholesome discussion with all the municipalities in British Columbia, as opposed to us sort of joining some on the south end of the island. So, but I would put that question to our chair, who's got more UBCM experience than I do, for comment.
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, the intention here, that being that it's on the highway, we wouldn't have to do any of that. This is a provincial highway and it needs to be made safer. And while we don't have jurisdiction on it, everyone who comes in Sooke is heavily dependent on it and are impacted. Everything we do, we are impacted by Highway 14. In terms of bringing it to UBCM, it would be very general. It wouldn't get into the specifics of Highway 14 at all. It would just be
collecting revenue on your own streets.
well, that's a different conversation. In this case, there is a breakdown where because I'm thinking back to the time when Mackenzie wasn't that overpass, and it had the only red light camera on the South Island. And then a portion of the fine revenue does go back to local governments, of which we would not have received because we're not really in that catchment area, right? That red light camera is gone now. So in this case, yeah, I have no problem with the province may look at the highway and may choose only one of these areas. They might choose one, they might not choose any, but this is where there could be a general, it's up to us now to push for where it impacts us uniquely. And in this case, Highway 14 does impact us uniquely. So we wouldn't have to do any of those pieces. So I am in support of this because I think it's just bringing it to attention. Further to Councillor Bettle's point, I hear you, but it's also a car that is dramatically altering someone's life, potentially injuring them to the point of never being able to enjoy life fully, may require a change of employment, inability to drive, all of those things. The car didn't get there on its own, not yet. It got there because of someone driving it. I hear you, but I think that's where, I mean, it reminds me when I was on UBCM and we were talking about this, it triggered a response from someone who lived in Surrey where they received 8 tickets, all in one shot because someone they lent the vehicle to was speeding through every single light and got hammered at every single light, 8 individual tickets. Traveling at extremely high speeds. So then it's the case, I think, if you start to get these tickets, then you might need to start tracking who's driving your vehicle, potentially or not. So I think that's a part of it. I used to work in the rental car world. We knew exactly who was driving. At this time, photo radar existed in BC. So it was either photo radar tickets or parking tickets that would come in after the fact. But we always knew who was driving at that particular time. And then there was a caveat, or there was language in it where we would then bill out the credit card, which is why you always need a credit card to rent. Like you don't get away with it. You just have to pay for it later. So then that was our mechanism of doing it. But I think with any entity, whether it's a ride share or family sharing a vehicle, obviously if someone is driving and you'll know what speed they're driving at, that are causing this, then it may trigger a different conversation. In terms of appealing it, I'll share I am guilty of a red light camera offense at the Mackenzie light, which is why I know this one, because I did get the ticket. However, in my case, it wasn't because I was speeding. It was because I entered the intersection after the light had changed, but I was also behind a very big RV and it was rush hour. Right. So yes, I did that. Yes, I stopped. Yes, I got the ticket. Yes, I could have appealed it. But the date that I had also had me away on a scheduled vacation. So I just learned not to follow closely, much to the chagrin of everyone behind me going forward into the future. But it did allow for that. But that was the reason. That's why I'm so familiar with that intersection that no longer exists. But I think just with traffic and the like and the impact that it has, we can do this and see what happens. They might just say, no, we don't see this. And then it goes nowhere, right? But at least we've raised the concern. Councillor St. Pierre.
I actually think the UBCM is a great place to bring some of this to, regardless of what happens with this particular motion. So I agree completely with that, by the way. I think that the important thing here is the deterrent and cost of policing. Right now, what's happening is that we've got a highway that we have little control over, but does cost us in terms of policing. And we know that policing is extremely expensive. If we can actually download some of that policing cost onto cameras to the Ministry of Transportation and the province in terms of maintaining better safety on Route 14, that's a win for us. It's a win in terms of, public safety, but it's also just a win in general, financially speaking. And given that all we're doing here is writing a letter, they can feel free to ignore. And if they want to ignore, they will. We know they can do that. So I don't see a big risk on our part. We're basically inviting them to make their highway safer at their own cost. There's just no downside to speak of here, other than the fact that I might get a ticket, but that's the way it goes.
Go ahead, Councillor Bateman.
Yeah, so thanks for all that feedback. I think it's important to note that New Westminster is in fact working with its local area association to bring a resolution to UBCM in this year. I think the key reason it came up for me was, okay, so we have this really challenging drive home, and one of these accidents is going to create an unknown set of consequences on our commuter traffic. And to try to cut those incidents down in number will do wonders for the mental health of our commuting traffic population. So, yeah. That's it.
I'll just add one final piece regarding UBCM because this has already come forward. A lot of it had to do with traffic fine revenue sharing and some changes there for additional net income for local governments for the province to also recover the costs with it. Some have already been implemented. So there's a resolution going back to August of 2018, and it's all in that case around costs. A lot of is the cost recovery that the province has already committed to, and then there's several more. I'm just looking at it now, so I didn't look at it, but I think when you look to bring something forward to UBCM, if there's something that there's interest of anyone to do, just generally speaking, is just look at the database first and then look specifically on what you're asking the advocacy body to actually do. A lot of the other previous discussions were around the costing of such and the sharing out with local government, which is already in place. So that is great for us in terms of doing this here. It may then, if there is a share that comes back, then we could divert that into policing costs, which we continually need, or protective services in general to help absorb some of those things. Okay, so enough said. I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Bateman. We're moving on to item 12, which is council verbal reports. So I'll start us off. Welcome everyone to the new year, and which is great. Again, my thanks to everyone for taking care of matters while I was ill. Sort of a plan that I have is to just pick up all the pieces around advocacy. So I would like, just given council's resolve earlier today, in regards to supporting Searchin, is drafting a letter to the Ministry of Housing, or the Minister of Housing in particular. We'll see CRMLA, just sharing the work that we're doing on the ground, and hope that he'll lend his support to the project when it comes live. Minister Callon had been in Sooke before. I was present at the meeting that they had with Searchin. He seemed very interested in it. So it would seem timely that we provide an update on where we are with that particular project. Also in terms of the wastewater grant, as previously mentioned, gathering out all that information, it's all together so we can bring everyone together to speed, because ministries have changed and how well documents flow from one to another. I don't know, maybe it's all there, maybe it isn't, but this way, okay, I'll bring it all together in terms of where we're at with these pieces. Another piece that came out was having a conversation again about Highway 14 and what's next. What other plans did the province have around the highway to make the highway safer? So we'll get those updates as well. Also hearing the need for more childcare services to be in Sooke, particularly before and after care. So who can we partner with to advance this particular work? So those are some things, along with coffee with council, and just I'll also reach out more proactively to media, just sharing. Right, they tend to sometimes be more all answer when they call, but also the media also wants to know what we're up to. So it was a good opportunity to showcase some of the great work that we're doing here in Sooke and what that all means. I did manage to get on a field trip with Sooke Elementary. So there was 3 classes, grade 3s, I think 3s and 4s actually. So 8, 9, 10-year-olds that had a skating field trip at Sea Park. When we headed off, we went the old route going down Gollage and then up Charters and then down the path to Sea Park. So it was quite a ways around because I wasn't 100% certain that the new trail was done. So I didn't want to take the whole classes there and be like, oh, sorry, it's shut, right? So while I was at Sea Park is just queried to see if it was open, and the staff indicated, yeah, it was. It's a full-on go. So after a lot of tying of skates and the like, we took that path back and we made it back to the school 40 minutes ahead of schedule. And the students found it much easier because they found the steps and the trail that goes down, like at the end of through past the golf course. It is a bit steep. Some were sliding. It was a bit muddy. And then coming up the stairs to the pool, it was muddy, and some found that to be a bit tough. Whereas the new trail is just switchbacks. It's the crushed road base or whatever. And then basically you come around Drennan. They all commented on how spacious the building looked like, because you could kind of see into the spaces, but a lot of students did comment that they liked the design, contrary to what some on social media said. They were proud of the trees that were kept and the landscaping, and found new things to look at, including an eagle that was observing all of this. And then they did gripe a little bit about being uphill the whole way to go, like up Gollage to the school, but they said it was much better than the hike coming the other way. So the teachers were very pleased, talked a bit with the principal. They said this opens up a new opportunity for younger students who maybe can't walk as fast, but they can now do some more planning around getting to and from Sea Park, which is wonderful. And also they spend a lot of time in the forest behind Sea Park. So getting our children into nature is very important. Getting them there safely there and back is also of importance. So they were very excited about that. And also the opportunities for the younger children to actually get to and from the arena without relying on bus transportation. So they're very pleased. So kudos to our staff for advancing that. Some of the grade 5s or the 4s that indicated that they might challenge themselves as the weather improves by actually using this to walk to and from school. So what a win that is, because they're not on the highway at all. They can just access this. They'll look for the eagle and enjoy the walk to and from. And then I told them, just make sure you don't leave school like my child does sometimes until you're allowed to. Sometimes they tend to just take off because they're done with class, and that's not the intention of the path. But I thought that was wonderful and pleased to share all of that. I do also, because we do have a Friendship City connection to Natori, Japan. You may be aware that there was quite an earthquake that happened over the holiday season, not particularly in Miyagi Prefecture where Natori is, but in another area, still quite an earthquake. And then, of course, they had the tragic collision of 2 aircraft, where there was an incoming domestic flight collided with a outbound Coast Guard flight that was heading to the relief area, and sadly the loss of 5. So we were scheduled to potentially have a Zoom meeting with Natori. Ms. Temple's going to follow up on that, but it's just tough 2 incidents. So just want to think about Japan and our sister city, our Friendship City, and everyone there. And of course, my family that's there as well. Otherwise, yeah, I'm grateful to be healthy and look forward to getting back to work. Over at the Capital Regional District Board, Councillor Bateman attended that. Councillor Plant has been confirmed as chair for another year, along with the mayor of Metchosin, Marie-Therese Little, serving as vice chair. I've stepped off the vice chair role. But I will remain on the same committee appointments and continue to chair First Nation Relations Committee in the outgoing year, or in the coming year. I'm also currently serving as the chair for the South Island South Island Reconciliation Advisory Committee, formerly known as Tamuk Treaty Local Government Committee, I will be putting my name forward to serve as chair on that committee again, and also had made aware that there will be more public. I've heard that the information is live, but more information out to the public around treaty, where it's at and the process, so that residents become more familiar with what's happening with the communities as well as the nations impacted by this. So that happened just at the end of December, and hopefully have a scheduled meeting later on this month that our staff provides support to. So thank you very much for that. So that's about it. Also like to thank our fire chief for covering off over the holidays and for keeping tabs on everything and for checking in with me. I really appreciate all of that. And we'll carry on from there. So otherwise, we'll just lead to any other questions from or comments, report outs. Councillor Beddoes, go ahead.
Sure, I'll give you a Sea Park update. We had our meeting the other day and we were able to welcome James Warner. He is going to be representing Juan de Fuca. He's from East Souk. Nora Quaint, I hope I got that spelled right. She is our youth member. So we have a youth member now once again. And of course, Noah Dowie is the one we put forward. And Adele Little was present, although he wasn't allowed to vote, but as chair, I allowed him to speak. So I don't know whether it was legal or not, but I did it anyways. And that brings to the last thing is that I was elected chair again for another year. Really excited about moving forward. We're going to go ahead with our study in the community as to what's needing for recreation. And I expect it's going to be quite a lively thing to deal with. So yeah. We're getting our new sign down there. All these things are coming together, and we've got reports from staff, and I can say with a great deal of confidence that we're very lucky to have that competent manager and staff down there. They are exceptional at what they do. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beddoes. My apologies for missing that meeting, but I'm glad to see that you were reconfirmed as re-elected as chair. So thank you for the work that you're doing. And I think when that process launches, it's getting the word out to the community that you need to participate in this, because if it's not planned, it doesn't happen. So we'll do what we can through various networks to get that out there so that we can strategically start planning things. Councillor Lajeunesse?
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say anything other than Happy New Year, everyone. But on Sea Park, it was brought to my attention by a friend who lives in Saanich, I believe, that the rec centers there, they have, I know Sea Park has annual memberships and monthly memberships, but in other jurisdictions, they also have tokens that people can buy that don't expire. So if you have your monthly membership, you get sick, you can't use it, so you're just basically throwing money away. But if you have these tokens that you can purchase that don't expire, that's maybe a better option for some.
Then you can use the punch card. It doesn't expire
Okay.
either. It's not a
I
token,
wasn't
but they have a
aware that
punch card.
They had that, so I
Yeah.
just thought I
If I
would.
could comment on it, we do have that. We also have, you can get day passes that are good for anything. You don't have to, use them by next week or anything like that. It's just a pass. So we've looked into it. Thanks.
Yeah, the punch card, it just depends. And when you go in, because I asked just like of a pass, then they'll ask the staff are great. How many times do you intend to visit? In this case, maybe you want to use a punch card instead of paying for the membership, because that'll be more, they'll ask you all of that. But that is an option. It's not a token, but it's a punch card. Same thing. Yep. Yep. I just wanted to also make a comment about the United Way, and just to share that our staff have done tremendous work partnering with the United Way, doing fundraising campaigns. And a few years ago, we actually won the Municipal Leaders Award based on the innovation of our staff. And it was great. I mean, when I was there, I guess someone said, "Oh, you look so surprised." I'm like, "I know we do good work, but for Souk to fundraise versus Saanich that has so many more people, like, how do you do that?" Because then even if everyone contributes, the numbers are still not going to match when you have that many people, the CRD, for example, participating. But we were recognized and we do have that. So they are a big, I'm glad that this partnership is happening. Counselor Bateman.
Okay, so our CAO reported out on the mural. There was a meeting in mid-December. So this mural is the one that was outside Cedar Grove Mall, right? At the Stick, the former Stick. And the artist Diego Narvaez and Shelley Davies were there. They've taken it down, and in taking it down, Bill Dixon's original, they discovered that it was in much worse condition than anticipated. So they've come up with Plan B, which is to take elements of that original mural and update it, and to bring in a new perspective. So we had this meeting, we had Mosaic's Pam Jorgensen was there, and our corporate services consultant, Lisa, and Ben Curry were there. And so they're moving ahead with this new look, which is a new vision of sustainable forestry in the 21st century. And I think it's very exciting. It's a beautiful image. So yeah, so that was exciting to see that come to some next step. I attended the staff Christmas party along with a number of us here, and that was a great night. Our team, I was going to say my team, not my team, Chandra's team, won the Jeopardy competition. And that was thanks to Mr. Riley, our new manager of community planning, who's a pretty savvy customer. So that's how we won the grand prize. I did some work on the Victoria Family Court's annual report over the holidays. Carolyn and I participated in the Solstice Walk, which is the first of a ongoing tradition. And it was quite something. People had gone to great lengths to create special lanterns. And, you know, there are these walks in other cities that can grow into quite a significant community event. So for year one, it was pretty successful. And I think that's about tomorrow. On Wednesday, we have the second meeting of the Homelessness Coalition's Community Action Team. And I know some of you, that's Wednesday at 12:30. You'll be getting a reminder tomorrow. And both of you are welcome, and others from council are also welcome. Kevin, you expressed some interest. And we'll have Kevin Albers from Macola, and Ravi Parmar will be there on Wednesday to add their particular perspective. And that's it.
Okay, there's one last piece I'd like to share with you, and I've decided to get involved with the Go By Bike Week through Capital Bike. So it's been 30 years that this event's taken off. Usually kind of like, hey, that's great. But I thought that with all the trail development occurring in Souk, what better way to showcase how easy it is to start getting around? And rather than telling people they should do this, I should probably ride my own bike on it. There's just one section that makes me nervous, and that's Phillips Road. I'm not very good with speed. So going down the hill on a bike and then stopping and then biking on Phillips Road. I grew up in a very rural area where I didn't have to, like, long, wide Alberta highways. So I'll figure it out somehow and do that. But I thought, you know, it seems timely given that we have done extensive trail work. And if there's a way of highlighting it is by showcasing that these trails are here. I'm already aware of students from middle school biking all the way to Journey Middle School and back from Sun River and other points. So certainly if they're doing it, anyone else who can do this, like, why not? I was thinking of Councillor Lajeunesse and just how quickly he moves around Souk these days. And it would be good just to start, you know, just showcasing that these things are happening and are all ways of moving residents safer, and you don't have to go the old way by the highway. So that's just a fun thing.
I see a lot of more electric bikes on there too, because I'm on the trail quite a bit, and lots of them.
Lots of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love the ones that just go at a reasonable speed. There's an occasional one that goes like a certain individual I won't mention here.
No, certain individual at the
scary.
stable, but it's a good way just to showcase what's happening, I thought. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. Okay. So on that note, we do have one rise in report item. And so this came out from our meeting today. It's just here for information. It's already passed, and that is that council directs staff to hire a consultant to assist with the competitive solicitation process for the design, build, and financing of a health center on the District of Sauk's property known as Lot A at 6671 Wadhams Way, and that funding come from the COVID Safe Restart Reserve. So that's from earlier today. So just sharing that out here as we really want to get going on our health center for the community and getting that necessary work done. So that's out there as well. So on that, I'll call for a motion to adjourn, please. Moved by Councillor St. Pierre, seconded by Councillor Lajeunesse. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, members of the public. Those